Hey guys, welcome back to Beer Fueled Fantasy Football. It's been a week since we got to sit down and do an episode together. We had the weird Friday episode, so apologies for all of that. Hopefully you guys did get to watch it on YouTube. If you were on the audio-only version, we're sorry that we weren't able to get a copy for you. There were some recording issues with that.
More like technology limitations would be the way I would put it.
We'll try to get that figured out so that doesn't happen next time we have to hit the road for you guys. As always, I'm at Nick Sparts, joined to my right by Dan Thury.
Dan Thury of BFF. What's up, guys?
And rocking the backup QB jersey in St. Louis is Christopher Hopper.
Too soon.
I will remember you at Hop BFF with 2 P's.
2 P's.
And on today's episode, we're of course going to go ahead and recap all games that we saw yesterday. I believe it was 11 of them, if my math is correct. Go over the news, talk about some players who have declared for the NFL draft already for 2019. It is getting to be that time of year. Go ahead and talk some waiver wire guys you can pick up, some injuries that happened yesterday, and also some guys that you can now safely cut from your roster. So I hope you guys are excited for all that. Before all that, though, just a couple quick reminders. If you want to follow the show on Twitter, Instagram, and Untapped, it is at BeerFueledFF with 2 Fs. Beerfield Fantasy Football on YouTube. If you want to catch the live stream, be able to ask questions of us of anything you guys want to know. We generally go live with 2 E's. We go live about 5:45 to 6 o'clock Monday, Wednesday, Friday Central Time. Sunday morning, it's about 10:30 in the morning to answer all your questions before noon kickoffs.
With 2 O's?
With 2 O's. They're just going to chime in every time I say a word that has 2 in it.
And 2 F's.
Anyway.
Other ways to help out the show, if you guys do want to assist, and we appreciate all of this if you can.
With 2 P's.
With 2 S's. All right, go ahead.
I'm so
done.
lost.
I'm done. Appreciate it. Has 2 P's.
Yeah. Assist says 2 S's?
Go ahead and drop likes and reviews on iTunes, likes and comments on YouTube videos. Subscribe to our channel anywhere you can. All that boosts the visibility where you can get that. Other ways you can is you can hit up the show at BeerFueledFF or BeerFueledFantasy@gmail.com if you're interested in sending us beer. We can't get beer from everywhere. We got a limited distribution here in the Midwest. So if you're East Coast, West Coast, South, and you want to send us a beer, we definitely appreciate that and get some new stuff on here. We have a Patreon if you want to support the show that way and help us cover costs of servers, beer, equipment, all that stuff. And lastly, we do have merchandise available, hats and shirts. If you guys are interested in any of that, hit me up at BeerFueledFF or BeerFueledFantasy@gmail.com, and I will tell you how I can get that shipped to you. But
By the way, that's comments with 2 M's.
And since I'm going to need one after this intro here, and like every episode, I have to let you know what's fueling us today. Beer Fuel. And lucky enough to be on our 200th episode.
200th.
Is Oh So Pretty by 18th Street Brewing.
Hey, it is. It's taking a chill out right now because I thought I was done with the ones that I didn't have in the fridge. Apparently I wasn't.
Yeah, sorry. This was the last one in the first batch I gave you.
Yep. Yeah, I missed that part. So I'll be grabbing it sometime after my first game review.
Well, it is 18th Street is out of Hammond, Indiana. 4th time I believe we've had them on the show. Sorry it was twice so frequently, but I grabbed this one right as we had the other one on, and I wasn't aware of it ahead
They're
of time.
probably in timeout until rookie season now.
Yeah, they're definitely done for the rest of the year.
It's been 4 pretty quick.
Oh So Pretty is a dry hopped rye Saison ale, so it's definitely very different from what we often have on this show. So that's kind of the reason I wanted to grab it. Plus the can art's kind of cool.
All 18th Street's can art is really, really cool.
They do a fantastic job.
Yep. Not overly complicated, but just cool colors, kind of cool etch design to it. So we're going to check out our Instagram, BeerFueledFF, if you want to see a picture of it. Comes in at 6.1% ABV, so just enough to give us a light buzz, but nothing too crazy for today's episode.
With 2 Z's.
Crazy.
I'm not sure there's 2 Z's.
Buzz
Buzz.
with
Got
2
it.
Z's.
All right, and I hope Hopper's done doing that because we got some news to talk about.
Yeah, I'm done.
News. Starting off with a bunch of Jaguars news, where they first fired offensive coordinator Nathaniel Hackett, promoted QB's coach Scott Milanovich to offensive coordinator.
Yeah, Nathaniel Hackett was really holding this offense back. I mean, it had just become really unimaginative. They tried to be a power run team, which they were good at as long as the running back was healthy. But the passing game is where it really struggled, and that wasn't a lot of Bortles' fault. It was a lot of short crosses, not really deep yards, not deep routes. And I think the personnel that they threw out at wide receiver was a little wonky. We talked about it going into the season to where they had 3 guys really that were the same 3 or 4 guys.
Yeah, and then they lost the most established one to IR at the start of the season.
Right, exactly. The only one, the most established one, and the only one that gave them a little bit more than just a field stretcher.
Yep. So offense has kind of been in whack. We had concerns about this with their weapons going into the season, but it started off okay and it's gone the wrong way in a hurry ever since the team started getting tape on this offense.
Yep.
Bortles apparently had like 61 or less yards through the first half in 5 of his last 6 games.
Yep, and that, I mean, even when the rest of the team was crap, Bortles was not doing that. Even when he was throwing his high interception games, he was not doing that. So you got to have a change in philosophy if that's what's going on.
So yeah, as mentioned with Bortles struggling, he has been benched. Cody Kessler is going to be the starting QB going forward.
He's going to be a lot better at hitting those wide receivers that basically run fly routes and shallow crosses.
He'll be a lot better at doing absolutely nothing. So
yeah,
I don't understand this move at all.
Yeah, as long as he's not suspended, it's going to be the Fournette show, and you don't give a fuck about anybody else on Jacksonville.
Yeah,
exactly. And with Kessler, I get it. They're trying to do something. Marone's probably trying to save his job, but that was not the answer. You lose the dynamic as far as running that Bortles gives you, which he hadn't been doing as much. Kessler doesn't have the arm to go downfield. Even though Bortles' downfield accuracy, not necessarily great, he at least has the arm to get it there, something Cody Kessler definitely does not.
No, agreed. All right, on to our next bit of news. This was a previous injury, so we split it out from the injury segment. And that's Lions placed wide receiver Marvin Jones on injured reserve with a knee injury he suffered a few weeks ago. He'd been getting second opinions on it, and they just decided they were done fucking with it since they're not making the playoffs.
Yeah, this is a smart move, but it also opens up the door for more Kenny Golladay. He's the only real piece there. We like Bruce Ellington here as maybe a deep stash PPR type of play, but again, he can't stay healthy either.
I like it more than Willie Snead now that it sounds like Lamar Jackson's getting the start the rest of season.
I don't want to that situation. It's not. He may get the start, but that situation is completely fucked now.
Yeah, it is. But back to Marvin Jones. Yeah. It's really good news for Kenny Golladay and probably Theo Riddick.
Yeah, breaking
and not
news.
Much else.
Yeah, breaking news button. This is per sleeper bot, so I can't fuck this up.
I appreciate that.
Leonard Fournette's been suspended for 1 game.
Jesus Christ.
I'm not shocked, but that freaking kills me in Scott Fishbowl because I'm in the playoffs next week.
Oh my god, that means I get to start Carlos Hyde.
Yeah, in the 2 leagues I own Fournette, and I have one. I do have Carlos Hyde in that league, so one of them.
It's like
not in the one I need him in the most.
It's like Melvin Gordon gets hurt in Dan's Dynasty League, and every running back I have on my roster is suddenly viable as a fill-in.
All right. But yeah, so Jones is done for the year. Fournette is suspended a game. I'm not shocked. He came off the bench and threw punches, which is a bad look.
I thought maybe they would give him the A.J. Green treatment from last year in which he would serve his suspension per the ejection.
But
I thought
Green
that maybe
didn't come off the bench.
Yeah,
I get
Green
that.
Was,
I do. I
Green
thought maybe.
On the field. Fournette came off the bench, but the other thing I don't necessarily get is how did that Bills player not get gigged as well?
He might
have. We don't know. It's just they're not going to do a sleeper bot.
Yeah, he was a defensive player. He's not fantasy relevant.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
We'll find out here as
I'm sure Roto World will get us information on that later.
Because after it was done, it was the Bills defender that kept going after Fournette in the tunnel and kept trying to instigate crap when Fournette was just trying to walk off. So just my thoughts.
Now that may get appealed, but keep an eye on it.
Maybe. I don't think it. I think it sticks then.
I don't think there's a reason to.
Yeah.
All right. Patriots activated running back Rex Burkhead with his neck injury off injured reserve.
This backfield is now completely fucked.
Speaking of things good for my dynasty team, maybe.
It hurts Michelle. It's going to hurt White because the Burkhead can do both. All 3 of these running backs are kind of the same in the sense where all 3 are viable pass options and they're all viable runners. Not maybe so more so between tackles like Michelle, but
White goes back to his usual role with limited touches, mostly just targets, and then Burkhead's going to eat in just enough to both of them to make owners angry.
Yeah,
Especially Michelle owners.
especially if Michelle is because he's banged up, isn't he?
He's still banged up. Yeah, he got folded in half like an accordion, literally. I don't know how he came back in after that.
LaShawn
tried
McCoy?
I thought it was back. It was almost Johnny. He almost got Johnny Knoxed.
Oh,
If you remember that.
yeah, I do.
All right. And then one of you two put 3 smiley faces in front
That
of
was
this, but
me.
you're excited.
That was me.
And I think this is pronounced N'Keal. N'Keal Harry, wide receiver, and DK Metcalf, wide receiver, out of ASU and Ole Miss, respectively, declare for the 2019 NFL Draft. They're both
You said LSU or
ASU.
Okay, I'm
Arizona
sorry.
State.
Yeah.
Arkansas State.
Yeah,
No, Arizona State.
Arizona State.
Arizona, sorry.
I thought you said L. Anyways,
I knew what it was in my head. It just came out wrong.
yeah, I just heard L. I just heard SU, and I just assumed you said LSU because
Regardless, these guys
Yes.
are considered 2 of the top wide receiver prospects in the draft. They're expected to be complete game changers coming out in year 1, really.
Yep.
So
They both have question marks. Harry has some athleticism question marks. I think they're mostly unfounded, but he does have them.
We'll see what the combine.
So the
finds.
combine test is going to be big for him. And then Metcalf has injury concerns. He's had 2 of his 3 seasons ended by injury. So those are the 2 red flags in both these guys, but I'm excited to watch their tape, and they've had a lot of buzz heading into the season. Both guys could potentially end up as first-round picks in the NFL Draft.
Harry is right now the consensus per most of Twitter draft talk as the 101 pick going into dynasty rookie drafts this subseason, but
There's a
wide open.
There's a few running backs I'm expecting to be in that conversation here.
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, we'll have more come March when we start really deep diving these on the show. But for now, we'll keep you informed for what we do know, and that is that both of these guys are expected to be major impact players and top of the first round dynasty picks.
Yep. All right. And with that, it is time to recap a few of the games that we watched yesterday. And by few, I mean all.
I was gonna say 11.
What the hell happened?
All right. Up first is the Jaguars versus the Bills, this aforementioned fight game. The whole day, Jen was freaking out that there was going to be a fight in the Bengals game versus the Browns, and then the fight broke out 2 screens down with the Jaguars and
Yes.
the Bills.
Yes.
Bills win this one 24-21. Dan, any major takeaways from this, especially now that Fournette's suspended for a game?
Well, there's a lot of takeaways with the Bortles benching for Ness suspension. We'll start with the Jaguars, which is where all the news comes from. I wrote all my notes down because this is prior to Bortles getting benched, so you can throw that all out. They do get Indy, Tennessee, and Washington up next. That means anything, which it doesn't because neither of these guys were worth much in fantasy, especially 1 QB leagues. For the Fournette owners out there, and I'm going to ask you guys this question, who would you rather prefer in trying to pick up? You see both Yeldon and Hyde on waivers. Who do you want more?
Yeldon. He's done it already in this offense, and he's the better pass-catching back, which Kessler has used before with Duke Johnson, and he was quite good early this year. In fact, he's still in standard formats. He's still the running back 16 on the year.
Not about you.
I didn't hear anything you guys just said. It cut out on me.
Oh, sorry. He was asking who would you rather pick up, Hyde or Yeldon with the suspension?
Oh, I'm picking up Hyde.
So
I think
split decision.
Yeah, I think that it just depends on the format, actually. Half point, they're close. PPR is Yeldon. Standard, it's Hyde. I think that Hyde gets more between the tackles work, which is how Jacksonville's going to want to try to move the football. But I think Yeldon's definitely viable. Don't get me wrong. I just am leaning Hyde ever so slightly. Especially with Kessler and Yeldon's viable.
Yeah, I'll probably lean Yeldon just because they get Indy up next, and if you're a lot of scoring should be in that game, and a lot of catching up work. To note though, Hyde had 10 carries to Yeldon's 3. Yeldon had all 4 of the targets, only caught 2 of them. So in terms of pass catching work, there is some floor for Yeldon. How much of that floor is actually there and will be? Because we've seen it before with. With quarterbacks from the past using their running backs in the offense, it could be completely changed even within the same system. CJ Beathard with the Niners was super pass running back happy, and he stopped using them. So we'll see how that works out. Wide receiver and tight end, the whole thing there is a mess. Don't worry about that, especially with the quarterback change. The DST, though, shit the bed against what should have been a very, very favorable matchup against the Bills. As mentioned, Colts, Titans, Redskins, and Dolphins in their season. I believe they're split road and home. I forgot which one. I forgot to write it down. Do you guys want this with how bad the defense has looked recently?
I want them against the Redskins.
Yeah,
Redskins and Dolphins look good.
I want them against the Redskins. I don't want them against the other two.
Okay. Dolphins is week 16.
Yeah, so 15 and 16 is good.
Yeah, okay. As for the Bills, a decent fantasy day for Josh Allen, 160 passing yards, touchdown, no interceptions, no sacks, 99 rushing yards, and a touchdown. Matchups.
Did you say 99?
Rushing yards.
Jeez.
Matchups up against Miami, Jets, and Detroit. So he has some 2 QB Superflex streamable options.
It was 102 before he started kneeling it out.
Yeah, we could say he had over 100 yards without the kneel downs. He's definitely streamable Superflex and 2 QB, and anything can happen during this time of the year. You're looking for that edge. Problem is, I believe he went 8 of 19, finishes one of the worst completion percentages of the game. It is against Jacksonville, who does have a good defense. So not super surprising there.
Though the dime he threw, stepping into the pocket,
he does that.
Was he got swallowed as the ball came out like a rocket.
Maybe it needs to happen more often to him.
He does things that are unreal.
Yeah,
sometimes
he all right.
It's like a worse Patrick Mahomes.
And much worse. Maybe an upgraded version of Blake Bortles. Or the same version of Blake Bortles. Who knows?
It's Blake Bortles.
It's Blake Bortles. All right, moving on. LaShawn McCoy dudded. Kind of called out what I said or thought that he was going to do. 18 touches for 53 yards. He only had 1 catch. But with the matchups coming up, they should get better. Colts, Titans, Redskins, and Dolphins all have or been struggling against pass-catching backs like McCoy. Zay Jones did goose egg you. I still like him the most in this offense. There wasn't a lot of completions, only 8, so he really couldn't be spread around a lot. Robert Foster is the guy that caught the big play from Josh Allen.
That was my concern with Allen coming back, is I feel like Zay Jones is a guy that is going to fit a Matt Barkley type of quarterback better than he is a Josh Allen.
Yeah, and I agree with that. We'll see how the offense shakes up in the offseason. This is mostly dynasty talk with Jones. Robert Foster got some Twitter buzz prior to it from some of the draft guys I follow, so... but it looks like they're also phasing out Kelvin Benjamin, both Foster and Jones. Jones completely outsnapped all the receivers, 92%. Foster and McKenzie had 50+, and Benjamin was in the low 40s. So it looks like they're phasing out Benjamin for the younger talent. And then the defense, again mentioned, they get the Dolphins, Jets, Lions coming up next. This is a good Bills defense. This is a very viable streaming option. You guys agree?
I've got them locked and loaded in your dynasty league, ready to go.
Okay.
Yep.
That answers
the defense. The thing that's been holding him back all year has not been the defense; it's been the offense screwing him. And Josh Allen has been the one who's basically screwed them the least outside of the one Barkley game. So
yeah. Then before we move on, we do have a question from Jimmy. Welcome back, Jimmy.
What's up, Jimmy?
Let's say Carrion sits another game. Do you roll with Theo Riddick or Josh Adams in full point PPR?
Who do they play?
I don't think it matters. I think it's Josh Adams. I think the upside. I think Philadelphia is very comfortable with this situation now.
Eagles get the Redskins. Okay matchup. And the Lions get the Rams.
You know, it's not even that close to me against the Redskins. We've seen what mediocre backs, a couple of mediocre backs anyway, did to the Redskins over the last couple of weeks. With Josh Adams doing what he has for Philly, I'm running him out in that matchup.
Yeah, you got to trust a guy who's likely to see 18+ touches, has a high touchdown upside. It looks like they found a role for Clement. It looks like the Jai Clement situation from last year between Adams and Clement this year.
Yeah, Small would vanish completely.
Which is I'm completely fine with. But with Theo, you're trusting game script, which should likely happen. But I can see the Lions trying to attack downfield more to try to keep up.
Yeah, I think it's Adams too. I haven't checked rankings or done anything yet for next
No.
week to look ahead, but Adams.
Likely Adams.
Yeah, you just have to look at what teams have done against the Redskins with Josh Adams. I mean, Lamar Miller, Peyton Barber, both had really good weeks, and they're primarily between the tackles type. So,
All right. Anything else on the
No, that's
Bills
it.
Jags game?
Sorry.
Moving on to Browns-Bengals, where Browns win 35-20, and it was mostly catch-up mode for the Bengals in this one early. Mayfield gives you the best game of his career, completing 73% of his passes, 258 yards, 4 touchdowns, 9 yards an attempt. Ever since Hughes gotten out of town, he's been trending upward in a hurry.
He has the second highest passer rating since the Hugh Jackson trade, right below Drew Brees.
Firing.
Yeah, firing, excuse me.
yeah,
They didn't trade him for shit.
Oh, they traded for a bag of potato chips.
Oh man. And some major shade at Hugh Jackson, which I thought was hilarious.
That
Yeah,
whole
he said it-
situation's amazing.
He's setting the tone for this team. I like it.
Yep. So Mayfield trending upward, viable streaming candidate down the stretch, though they don't have too many amazing matchups. They do catch the Bengals at home in Week 16 for your championship if you're trying to stash
Ooh.
ahead.
There you go.
Cool.
Nick Chubb, 31 total touches in this game. They were
Nice.
feeding him. He was only at 3 yards a carry on the ground, but was pretty effective in the passing game. 128 total yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 on the ground. 1 was an amazing catch in the air. So
Yeah, that catch was phenomenal. He went around a guy.
Mhm.
He was Alshon Jeffrey like.
now
Yeah,
there
it
might be
looks
some
like he-
questions on whether it was actually a catch, but
It looked like he plucked it off of his back as they were falling down. It was slightly underthrown, but incredible nonetheless.
He had control of it around the guy's back. I think when he tried to pull it over him, it might have bobbled, but I saw the replay. I still think it was a catch.
Yeah.
He had control of it when he crossed the plane.
The refs missed a lot of calls this
Yeah.
week. Oh my god.
Duke Johnson, though, I'm kind of concerned about. 3 touches, 39 total yards, had been 7+ in back-to-back.
They didn't have to throw.
And people are excited because they're using him out of the slot, which is where he got his big catch, I think. So there, it's the Nick Chubb show. It looks like, especially that as Hopper said, they didn't need to run, and the game script was in Brown's favor for the majority of
Throw.
it.
They didn't have to throw.
Didn't have
They
to
had to
throw.
run. They didn't have to throw.
Well, yeah.
All right. Passing game was mostly quiet. No one had over 5 targets. Njoku, Callaway, Landry all had 5. Callaway and Njoku were both solid. They both had a little over 60 yards. Both had a touchdown. Njoku was awesome.
He
Yeah,
tried
what
to
the fuck?
hurdle a guy, got caught, got set back down on his feet, and his lineman pushed him into the end zone.
I don't know why. Like he tried to hurdle, but it looked like he was trying to dive from the 3-yard line while the guy was standing upright. It was a weird.
But it worked.
It worked because he muscled himself
It
in.
looked like a hurdle, and he got caught on the leg.
But Callaway's been looking good. His catch rate has gone way up the last couple of weeks, so he might be a guy to take a look at as a dart throw. Whereas Landry, 5 targets, 3 catches, 30 yards. He's been really disappointing this year.
Mayfield spreading the football around. I think that's what the offense wants, is not them locking on one player.
Is he a possible dynasty buy low?
Could be as the offense continues to progress. You got to keep in mind Baker Mayfield's just now scratching the surface, but yeah, the way they're spreading it out right now with the defense playing decently well, I don't know that he's going to lock in on one guy. But if this ever becomes a higher volume passing team, then yes.
There's going to be a lot of changes in the offense or in the offseason for this team. So I say if you're, trying to rebuild or even retool, go out there and see if you can get him for a buy low. And then if the situation changes for next year, a lot of things could change in the offseason for them.
Yep. Defense did okay for you if you started him in a desperation type play. 2 turnovers caused, got a sack. So not as good as we were hoping, but they gave you something at least. Rest of season schedule, at Texans, Panthers, at Broncos, and the Bengals.
All right.
On the Bengals side, Bengals pass game was less than ideal. Dalton was 10 of 17 for 100 yards, a touchdown, and a pick before he hurt his thumb and went on IR for the season. Jeff Driscoll came in and took over. He was also pretty mediocre, but he at least didn't throw an interception.
He locked in with Tyler Boyd, which helps.
155 and a touchdown, and
On like 27 attempts.
yeah.
He was lower yards per attempt than Dalton was.
I mean, Cleveland's got they're a very aggressive defense that takes advantage of situations like this. So I'm not saying better, days are ahead, but you can take away that he locked in on Tyler Boyd, which is good to see for point owners. And I don't know how much this hurts Mixon moving forward, but
well, speaking of Mixon, he was 21 of the team's 23 running back touches today. So he's got a stranglehold in this backfield. He was 6.4 yards per carry, 155 total yards. So solid day for him. Only thing he needed was a touchdown to save it, or not to save it, to be a boom day.
Yeah.
Tyler Boyd continues his breakout season. Caught 7 of 8, 85 yards and a touchdown, and he had about a 40-yard play called back on a penalty that was unrelated to his big play.
Yep.
So that could have been even a bigger day for him overall. The big shock for me, Uzama had 13 targets in this game. Caught 6 for 39 yards.
So tight end stream day.
Yeah, you think 13 targets and you're like, oh man, this is going to be good. And
then you realize it's Jeff Driscoll throwing him the football, and you're like, well, I'm not surprised to see 6 for 35.
Yeah, he had like 2 catches that went for a combined 3 yards at one point. John Ross and On Tate were your 2A, 2B. Both had 7 targets. Only 3 receptions for Ross, 2 for Tate. Ross scored in 30 or less yards for both.
Ross, boom bust.
So Green will be back shortly, hopefully.
Hopefully next week. Hopefully they don't shut him down with the loss of Dalton.
I really hope not, but could be this team.
I mean, I do have a lot of Boyd shares, so maybe, I don't know.
Defense is the hottest of hot trash.
Yes.
Rest of season schedule, they get the Broncos, at the Chargers, Raiders, and the Browns. So
there's no reason you should ever play the Bengals defense. So
maybe against the Raiders.
No, we've seen it before. Even bad defenses, bad offenses, things can happen.
Now I am going to be keying up the Broncos against Jeff Driscoll next week.
More on that later.
On to the Giants versus the Eagles. Eagles win this one at home 25-22 on a last-second Jake Elliott field goal. Hopper, any major takeaways from this game?
Eli Manning and my major takeaway from this game was what Odell said, which was they're missing literally their entire secondary, and we decided not to work the ball deep. That was my takeaway. So Shermer's got some explaining to do. But Eli Manning, 26 of 37 for just 297 yards and 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Not a bad game, but not as good as it could have been. As I said, they just didn't really work the ball downfield. Saquon Barkley had another stellar performance, though. Just 13 carries, but 101 yards and a touchdown on the ground. Another 8 targets with 7 receptions for 41 and a touchdown through the air. So he had himself an awesome day. The Giants really were ahead for most of this game, I believe, if I remember right.
And then they basically stopped doing things in the second half.
I think Barkley had like 5 touches in the second half.
He had 31 of his 33 points in the first half.
Right.
Fucking ridiculous.
Odell Beckham was just 9 targets, 5 receptions, 85 yards. So not very good. Those point and post game comments were essentially that they're missing their entire secondary. Why didn't we work the ball downfield?
And Moore got hurt.
That wasn't in the game plan.
Yeah.
Which it should have been. I mean, Cravon LeBlanc is covering Odell Beckham.
He had 3 targets, I think, in the first quarter. And then didn't see shit for the majority of the second and third until they became more pass heavy or pass happy as Eagles are coming back.
Yep. Sterling Shepard, 6 targets, caught 4 of them for just 37 yards, and that was without Evan Ingram. So if that tells you anything about how this passing game underperformed for the most part. Ingram hurt his hamstring, so Red Ellison got the tight end to work. He did catch 4-6 for 77 yards, so somewhat viable if Ingram misses time, if you want to buy into that. I mean, he can at least kind of do it. And that's it for the Giants. Defense played better than I thought they would, but that was I don't know if that's
a low bar.
Product of them or if it's Philly's offense being all sorts of out of whack. But speaking of Philly's offense, they're all sorts of out of whack. Carson Wentz, 28, 236 yards, 1 touchdown as the offense continues to struggle. This is back-to-back bad weeks for Wentz. Are we worried? He's got the Redskins, Cowboys, Rams coming up.
A little bit, because this was supposed to be a decent matchup for him. He at home, playoffs are on the line. You expected more from this game. He got back into it with Ertz and Jeffrey, but again, that's about to talk about the offense just it's not clicking properly.
Well, and I mean, Jeffrey wasn't over 40 yards. Nobody was.
Yeah.
Other than Ertz.
I was saying for, target wise, at least he saw more than last week.
No, still wasn't much. Kate let him. Josh Adams, 22 carries, 84 yards and a touchdown, long and 19. He made himself worth it late. It was kind of mediocre up until...
Well, he was out for an injury with a while, wasn't he?
He was.
He was.
He was. So he did get banged up a little bit, but he came back in, made it worth it. Still 22 carries. Peterson is committing to even more snaps, more touches for him. So just keep that in mind as we go forward. He firmly has at least a LeGarrette Blount share of the touches here. Golden Tate, by the way, as I mentioned, did lead the team in targets. He had 8 of them. No wide receiver had more than 40 yards, though. So they're just struggling to get this wide receiver core going. They're trying to implement Golden Tate. It's not really working out.
Yeah, I don't see why they don't attack the ball downfield more with guys like Jeffrey that can help Tate and Ertz open up the middle.
Or go back to Aguilar, people that Wentz are comfortable with instead of trying to force the ball to Tate.
Yeah, I agree.
And then Zach Ertz was your leading pass catcher. This is the one thing that is normal and reliable here. 7 of 8 for 91 yards and a touchdown there. So, and the Eagles defense, you're not really doing anything with them. They don't have a secondary. And if you don't have a secondary, you can't cover long enough for the pass rush to get home. And you can't really do much in pass defense. So,
yeah, it's not looking good in Philly.
Bad situation in Philly. A lot of injuries on that back end.
Yeah.
All right. Before we get to Seahawks and Panthers, we got a couple questions here. First, Jimmy wants our just quick initial thoughts on the Thursday night game. Can the Cowboys keep up with Breeze and the Saints offense? We'll give a full deep dive, of course, on Wednesday's episode.
I'm not gonna be here. I gotta work, so I'm gonna give my quick thoughts. It is in Dallas. In Dallas's offense, it's been clicking since the Cooper trade. We've talked about this extensively since then. I don't know if they win. But their defense is good enough to maybe slow down Breeze slightly in this offense and the running game. I don't think this is a blowout, though. I think the Cowboys and the Saints keep this thing close, and it may even go under as it could become more defensive.
Yeah, I'm kind of with Dan on this. I see this as a game where both teams are under 30 points, maybe. And
both teams are hot. Offensively speaking, for sure, the Cowboys have won 3 straight. The Saints haven't lost since week 1. This could be a very, very fun game, and both are gonna have a week's rest.
I think it's going to be a lot closer than people think.
Yeah, I agree with that. Especially,
I still think the Saints are going to win, though.
I agree with that too.
All right. Up next is the Seahawks versus the Panthers. Seahawks win on a last-second Janikowski field goal, winning 30-27 over the Panthers in Carolina.
But my God, he looks hilarious kicking a football.
But before then, to get to the second question that Nick skipped over, from Jack, my running backs are McCoy, Adams, Delvin Cook, and Cohen. I could also pick up Yeldon with my number 1 waiver pickup. Which of these 2 guys would you go with this week? Thanks.
What were they? McCoy, Adams, Delvin Cook, and
Cohen, and then he could pick up Yeldon with his number 1
or Hyde, I think.
So
I just see Yeldon.
I'm 100% in on Adams.
Well, I think he already says he has Adams.
I know.
No, yeah. He's saying pick 2 from these guys to start.
Which should he go with?
I'm going Adams and Cook. A Vikings kid in New England who is horrendous against pass catchers, but depends who the Bears. Who are the Bears playing, Hopper?
Bears have the Giants. Cook and Cohen are really close in that case.
They are.
Either way, I think I like both of them more than rolling the dice on Yeldon and
Hyde. If Hyde wasn't there, it'd be Yeldon, but the Bills have the Dolphins too.
Right. So as far as McCoy, Cohen, Cook,
it might be McCoy.
It might actually be. I forgot.
It
might be McCoy.
I just like his work installation a little bit more than I like Cook's on a very pass-happy team, and more than I like Cohen's, where he's not really getting a ton of scrimmage yards.
All right.
No.
Now on to the Seahawks and Panthers with the linebacker kicking the game-winning field goal.
And start with the Seahawks here. And true Russell Wilson fast, and he saved his day in the second half of this game. First 300-yard game of the season. So he went for 339, 2 passing touchdowns, no picks, a couple sacks taken. This makes, for him, 7th straight game with the multi-touchdowns for him. 2 of his next 3 matchups are against the Niners. And then he gets a Vikings sandwich in between those. So he's viable for at least 2 of those games. I would look elsewhere against Minnesota in what is likely the first week of most people's playoffs.
Mm-hmm.
Chris Carson dominated the touches. It was the only back to see pass catching work. Was Seattle eyeing a playoff run? I think they stopped getting cute with Penny and Davis and let Carson control this backfield moving forward, which is smart. He finished 18 touches, 63 yards, and a rushing touchdown. If this all stays true,
And he stuck the landing.
That was that was insane.
impressive. I wish his knee hadn't touched the ground because that was insane.
Yeah. With this all staying true, with what do you think Chris Carson is moving forward into the fantasy playoffs?
Solid running back too.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's right there with Matt Breida for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, Philip Lindsay in the same range.
I'd take Lindsey over the two.
I mean, I'm saying
I don't know schedules off the top of my
Yeah.
head, but yeah, Lindsay's in that.
Actually, Lindsay would be higher based on schedule.
Yeah, I don't know schedules off the top of my head, but Lindsay's in that same range. Aaron Jones is another guy I'd put ahead of them, but
Yeah.
I mean, Aaron Jones, after what he did last night against the Vikings, is an RB1, I think.
oh yeah, he's phenomenal.
High
But,
two for
Deion
sure.
Lewis is another guy I'd put in that range, so he's solidly an RB2.
Yeah.
Carson is.
Doug Baldwin, move on to the receivers. So Doug Baldwin led the team in targets with 7, did very little with it, 5 for 39, though, as David Moore and Tyler Lockett both had nice days, had over 100 yards apiece and a touchdown. Lockett is clearly the one to own in this offense, as he's been the most consistent. He's had a touchdown in all but 3 of his games this year, and I think he's only had one real dud. Most of his games he's finished as a wide receiver 3, if not 2 and better. But how do we feel about Baldwin going in the playoffs? This is a guy a lot of us were high on, even with the knee injury to start the season, kind of tempered that a little bit. But tempered that a little bit. How do we feel about? It's been a while since I've done that. How do we feel about Baldwin moving into the playoffs? Though
Very bad. I'm not.
Let's just put it this way: I'm really glad that Emmanuel Sanders is an option I have over him.
I agree.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm really, really worried about my Scott Fishbowl team. Whereas I think my only Baldwin share is on that team, and I also have Fournette and Alex Collins. So I'm in real ugly shape going into week 1 of the playoffs here.
Sorry, buddy.
Yeah, I got lucky with my Baldwin shares to where I have other people, but I am not feeling great about Doug Baldwin. I think if the target volume hasn't been there, the yak hasn't been there, it's just not. I think he's still more hampered than he lets on to.
Yeah. And this
Sorry,
offense,
Hurricane.
Yeah. And this offense has really shifted to be more balanced and not even more run focused. And Wilson he just starts off slow in nearly every game, more so than usual. And then David Moore, just because he's a big play machine at this point, I think he's had some viable weeks. But he's become a decent boom bust receiver if you're looking for that random upside play.
He's very boom bust. And the thing to remember about Russell Wilson, too, that a lot of people forget because he is a good quarterback, is he's never really been great for supporting multiple consistent fantasy pieces.
Yeah, about 2's his limit.
And that's and that was with Baldwin.
That second one is normally a different person every game.
Yeah.
I mean, we haven't forgotten the Paul Richardson, Tyler Lockett guessing game of last year.
Oh my God.
I mean, last year it was Baldwin, Graham, and then good luck.
Yeah.
It was Baldwin, Graham, good luck, and this year it's really Lockett, Carson, and then good luck.
And Graham was because of touchdowns because they didn't have a running back to run it at the goal line. So that was just more of a goal line back. All right. Anyways, tight ends here. Very, very soft matchup for them. Couldn't take advantage of it. 2 targets apiece. I believe both of them had caught both of them. Dixon outsnapped Fournette 44-25. Clearly, none of these guys are fantasy viable. As for the defense, they get the Niners in weeks 13 and 15. This is a good defense. They've overperformed our expectations. So pick them up, stream them, stash them. I wouldn't play them against the Vikings. I didn't look to see what they're playing in week 16, but
It's another ugly matchup, if I remember right.
yeah. Anyways,
I think
we'll move on to the Panthers while you look it up, Nick.
Chiefs,
Yeah, so playing weeks 13 and 15,
and then drop them.
and then drop them if you're making it that far. Hopefully you all do. As for the Panthers, Cam Newton thrown a pick in 3 straight games, but had a decent floor day. 256 passing yards, 2 touchdowns, that 1 interception, 63 rushing yards on the ground. He hasn't had a rushing touchdown since week 8, and he has only 3 games in which he's had a rushing touchdown in it. So we're starting to see a little bit more of the older Cam Newton starting to show off. But he's had 8 straight games with 2 or more touchdowns. You're like looking at me like you're gonna.
I thought it was. I think it's 8 straight with 60+ completion percentage and 2 or more touchdowns.
Yeah. So he's doing it in a different way.
He's Matt Stafford with upside.
Yeah, that's a very fair.
That's basically what Cam Newton has been this year. He hasn't given you the big blow up game, but he hasn't given you the duds either. He's really leveled it out.
Yeah,
which is why I haven't been shitting on him. He's actually just been a consistent, viable plug in, forget about it option this year.
Yep, and he's still he's still averaging 38 rushing yards on just 5 attempts. But as you can see with this offense, especially now recently, the Panthers are just more willing to use CMC and the rest of the pass catchers in the red zone, which is good for them and good for Cam's health long term.
Well, and Curtis Samuel is kind of a Taylor Gabriel type of gadget player, is working out pretty well for him, and DJ Moore is really stepping up.
Exactly. But Cam is still every week starter, so don't get too concerned about not seeing the big blow up days. And then speaking of CMC, creative for him to say the least. 237 total yards, 28 touches, 2 total touchdowns. I think I've seen out there on Twitter that he would be the wide receiver 20 just based on his receiving stats alone this year.
Yep.
He's got 9 touchdowns in his last 4 games. This is clearly making him a case for a top 5 running back right now. He's a 4th in red zone carries and tied for a 4th in goal line carries with Saquon Barkley at 21. So this whole notion that he's not getting used, that's completely gone.
He is a top 5 running back right now.
It is unreal.
In my opinion, he is a top 5 running back right now.
I mean, because it's Gurley, Zeke, Kamara, Barkley, and McCaffrey, right?
McCaffrey, you can throw Gordon if he obviously didn't get hurt.
I would have Gordon in there. Kamara's had a down couple weeks. I still like Kamara, but they've got to get rid of Ingram first because his touches are down, or his efficiency's down. So I've got Gordon in there and not Kamara. Kamara's just behind him because he doesn't have the backfield to himself. That's the bigger reason.
Before this 9-point game here, his last 4 before that was 5 total touchdowns and at least and that was just rushing, and then 100, and then he had in full point PPR he's 26, 33, 25, and 17 fantasy points the 4 weeks before that.
Was this Kamara?
Yeah.
It just speaks more volume to what the running backs have done this season as opposed to what we saw last year, which was a little down last year outside of Gurley and Kamara. And just
to be clear, that's not me shitting on Kamara. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying that I would take the guys that are giving you 150 all-purpose yards and multiple touchdowns a week over him right now.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's not a top 6 running back. He is. I'm just saying I'd have Gordon ahead of him.
Yeah. And that's, like I said, that's where the running back landscape, which is a lot of fun, especially for fantasy.
It's a ton of fun, especially these RB2s that have emerged.
Oh, God, yes.
Nobody was really expecting. It's made it a lot of fun. You've got James Conner up there in the top 10 discussion, but you've got guys like, Peyton Barber, Marlon Mack, Chris Carson that, weren't really highly touted that are coming in and have been consistent starters.
Yep, it's been good. We'll move on to the receivers here with Devin Funchess out. DJ Moore stepped right on up, took over the wide receiver 1 duties, and probably takes it over for the rest of the season and moving forward. Went 8 for 91 on 9 targets. He was the only real relevant receiver on this team in terms of production. Samuel got the early touchdown, but still had, I think, just a couple targets and catches. Greg Olsen was very disappointing though. 2 for 11 on 4 targets. Not what we wanted to see from him. I'm going to say days should be coming up better, but I think he's become more touchdown dependent and not so much of the Cam Newton safety blanket with more of the yak receivers that they have now.
Yeah, I'm not sure if maybe the foot's still bothering him or something, but he doesn't look like himself.
Yeah, and like I said, I think it's because they have receivers that fit to what Cam does best too. You still get your big body guys like Funchess, but with Moore and Samuel being used far more in this offense than last year, especially with Samuel. You get more of the yak plays. You don't need to have the big safety blanket in Olsen.
And back to Kamara real quick. He's the set. I just wanted to look it up to make sure I wasn't losing my mind. He is the running back 7 since Ingram got back, behind Gordon, McCaffrey, Connor, Barkley, Hunt, Gurley. So
good times.
And he scored 9 touchdowns over that stretch. So that's just
right. If that tells you anything.
Yeah.
The big drop off is after McCaffrey. Gordon and Kamara are separated by 0.3 of a point.
Yeah. And that'll slightly change now, sadly, with the Gordon
hurt. Anyway, sorry, continue.
You're good.
Didn't mean to cuck your review there.
No, you're good, man. Bucks, Browns, Saints are up next for this defense. Bucks and Browns are on the road. Obviously, you're not going to play them against the Saints, but these are trap games. The Bucks offense is can be very, very good, and the Browns are just doing things that make everyone happy, including Browns fans. So, trap games for the defense. Including Browns. Well, because they're always so down on themselves.
I figured you would have said especially.
Yeah. Bucks and Browns are, like I said, are trap games for this decent defense. They are, but they are good offensive teams that can make mistakes. So, trap games for the defense moving forward.
All right, all set?
All set.
Next up, we got the Patriots going into New York to play the Jets, or I guess New Jersey technically. 27-13 the win for the Patriots here. It was kind of close for about a half, and then it just kind of fell apart for the Jets.
Yeah.
On the Patriots side, Brady is kind of turning into a bit of a game manager. 20 of 31, 283 yards, 2 touchdowns, no sacks, no turnovers, and this is about the best game he's had in a couple weeks here.
We're getting into what we've seen always from Brady, and that he starts to slow down a little bit as the regular season comes to a wind, because they've always had their division and playoff spots locked down.
Yeah, and their schedule rest of season outside of the Vikings game here next week is really easy.
So hopefully he fixes that problem.
Yeah.
Sony Michel did not get eased in coming off of his injury here. 23 touches, and he missed a time with an injury during that stretch. 135 total yards and a touchdown. James White is back to his 10 to 12 touch range, and with Burkhead coming back here, that may drop even further. He's 10 touches for 78 total yards in this one. With 73 of those on the ground, he didn't really catch passes in this game for some reason.
Didn't need him to.
No, and part of that was when Michelle went out too, because he did miss about a series.
Gronk had his first normal-looking game since week 1.
He was due for it. I think they finally let him get healthy.
Yeah,
only 3 catches, but he had the seven targets, which led the team. 56 total yards and a Gronk touchdown. Like, it was caught it through 2 collisions.
The Gronk touchdown looks to be normal. The stat line we would like to be more, but I think this will
he had a rough matchup this week too with Jamal Adams.
That's true.
Yep. Yeah, the Jets are good against tight ends, and
because Jamal Adams is an amazing safety.
Yeah, he is.
For the rest of the receiving game, it was mainly Gordon and Edelman, 5 targets each. Edelman caught 4 of 5 for 84 and a touchdown. Gordon caught all 5 of his for 70. They're just both solid wide receiver 2s week in and week out at this point.
Yep, I agree.
Defense was solid, 2 sacks, a pick, 13 total points allowed. They get a rough game against the Vikings here, but then they get 2 of their last 3 in the playoffs are nice. At the Dolphins, at the Steelers, and then the Bills at home to finish up. Onto the Jets, where McCown was pretty mediocre. 264 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 pick on 45 attempts. They really need Darnold back for any sign of life in this team, and that's kind of a stretch even.
Yeah, I don't know that they're going to get a sign of life there. They're done, and Bulls is probably canned. It was fun while it lasted.
Yeah, he kind of got that team to overperform for a while, but it seems like the wheels have fully come off here.
The universe has a weird way of bringing things back to the norm.
So here's a fun thing you can do with. I'm going to go back quick to the New England defense. Pair them up with the Rams, or not Rams, with the Seahawks. They have opposite schedules of fantastic matchups.
Yeah, that would not be a bad pairing.
There you go. Moving on. Sorry.
We recommend beer pairings and defense pairings on this show.
That's right.
Quarterback pairings, too. Not a bad thing.
Oh, definitely not.
Running backs, just 49 yards in this game on 12 attempts. Crowell was the better. Of the 2, he had 60 total yards, but neither Crowell nor McGuire are more than low running back 3s heading down this final stretch. Which is unfortunate. I was hoping to get at least one startable piece out of this team.
Darnold back, maybe Crowell will have one of that. His 200-yard
one
games.
more pop game.
There is one startable piece out of this team, but it ain't the running back or the quarterback or the wide receiver.
Yeah.
Nope. You can do the math.
Enunwa caught all 4 targets for 73 yards, so we finally saw something out of him again. He'd been quiet for about a month and a half, so I don't trust it yet, but maybe consider him as a streaming candidate. Curse caught 6 of 12 targets for 66 yards and a touchdown. I don't know why he saw 12, but...
Is it just me, or has Jermaine Curse had done the least with the opportunity that he's been given?
He's had multiple 10-plus target games this year and has done very little with them.
Look at his hot start last year that completely faded away.
Yeah.
And then Herndon is the only other pass catcher really involved. He got 7 of 8 for 57 yards. Continues to give you pretty solid tight end days, almost week in and week out.
He's a back end tight end one. Just start him and don't think about it.
Yeah.
The other great Miami tight end next to Njoku.
Ah, yes.
Yeah,
I was thinking Dolphins, not
No,
Hurricanes.
I know.
I feel like
Or should I say Katrinas?
yeah. Every time I go through a rookie class, which has been 2 of them now, I learned something else coming into the season, which was I wanted to be higher on Herndon, and I wasn't.
Yep.
Because of what consensus was saying, and I absolutely should have been, based on what I saw on the tape.
Yeah, we liked him more than consensus, didn't we? We weren't like in love with him or anything.
People
But
were concerned because of just the lack of, I think, touchdowns. He was our yak tight end. It was,
I
Njoku
was quietly in love with him because of the way that he ran after the catch, just carrying
Exactly.
people with him, blowing people up. He was so much like Delaney Walker in that regard that I should have hyped him more, and I didn't.
It happens.
You should have been a man crush. I wanted him to be, and I told myself no. Next time I just listen to my body, even though my mind's telling me no.
That's right.
As for the Jets defense, it's like Sasquatch or Loch Ness Monster. It might as well not exist. No sacks or turnovers.
Oh, that upcoming stretch, though.
End of season schedule at the Titans, at the Bills, versus the Texans, and they close at home against the Packers.
I wouldn't even play him at the Bills because it's on the road.
Yeah, we saw what happened last time when they had the Bills at home.
Yeah.
Yeah, and the Bills weirdly show signs of life.
We got some questions rolling in, sirs.
All right.
Go for it.
All right, Jack, again, my receivers are Diggs, Woods, DJ Moore. Should I start DJ Moore against Tampa Bay over the other 2 guys?
Who do the Rams
Diggs,
have?
Rams have the Lions, so Diggs gets the Patriots. Woods and the receiving core will get the Lions. I don't know who Slay's in the lineup against.
Man,
Slay would get Cooks if I had to guess.
And then you have DJ Moore. I forgot who the Panthers are playing now. I always talk about it, but I escapes my mind.
You said they've not. It's not the Browns. It's the Buccaneers.
Bucks. He just said it too.
Yeah.
I think I'm absolutely starting DJ Moore.
Over which one?
Oh man,
Can you not play all 3 of them? Is it only 2 receiver, 2 running back? No flex? Because if it's no flex, you got to start talking to your commissioner here.
Right. I would try to play all 3, but if I guess I don't know, man. I want to say Diggs, but just because I think the Patriots are the worst matchup out of those, but I don't love saying that.
I don't think you can sit Diggs right now, man.
I don't
He's so
think
hot.
You can either.
If anybody, it would be Woods. I think he's had 3 games with a touchdown this year, but he's so safe in an offense that's so high power that's missing arguably his best receiver in Cup.
But DJ Moore against the Buccaneers.
Yeah, I mean, last time he played the Buccaneers, he had 1 catch.
Okay, that
was a few weeks ago. I get it, but Funchess could be back, so I don't think you get cute. I think that Diggs and Woods' upside matches more, and I think Moore has the lowest of floors, not lowest, but lowest between the 3.
All right, and then Pavan has a question here. He needs a Doyle fix, which you haven't gotten to the injuries yet, but spoiler alert: Doyle is done for the season on IR with a kidney injury. He's got some names he listed off here. Who should his pickup be? Rudolph, Jesse James, Mark Andrews, Vernon Davis, Everett, Uzama, Goddard, Antonio Gates, Nick Vannett, RSJ.
Rudolph.
It
hasn't been pretty, but at least he
actually got used some last night.
Yeah, it's Rudolph or Uzama, I guess.
It's Rudolph. It's Rudolph.
Hey, at least Rudolph still has upside.
Yep.
A little bit.
And then he says, can I play Titans D versus the Jets, or should I pick up the Chiefs D against the Raiders?
You can play Titans versus the Jets.
Yeah, because the Chiefs' defense afterwards is pretty bad, if I remember correctly. I think they still get the Chargers, again.
Well, they get the Raiders twice. So they're not a bad...
I don't remember that they were so bad.
That's kind of a toss-up for me. I mean...
I'm looking at
it
right
the Jets
now.
have. Hold
So
on.
they get,
no, they get the Raiders in Week 17, so you don't even get that matchup. So afterwards, it's Ravens, Chargers, Seahawks.
Ravens, Chargers are at home.
I mean, Titans just have a solid scheduled period.
It's Jaguars with Cody Kessler, the Jets, who are bound to give you some interceptions, and who's championship week? I can't find them.
Redskins.
I'm rolling with the Titans in that scenario. I just think that their defense has been better season long, and those matchups are pretty juicy.
Yeah, and with the Chiefs, it's all aggressive play. not a great defense, and because of how good their offense is, they're going to give up a lot of yards, and you're hoping for a pick six or some sort of high turnover, high sack game.
All right, guys, we need to keep this moving. We have really slowed down too much here. Moving on to 49ers, Buccaneers. Buccaneers win this one 27-9. This was not the shootout we were looking for.
He never lets me have fun.
I know.
Hey, we're at 55 minutes already.
Oh, we're fine.
Yeah, we're okay. In shootouts, I don't know that Nick Mullins and shootout are necessarily synonymous with each other as much as the Bucs and shootouts are. Nick Mullins is a backup. He's a third-string quarterback. He's played like it the last few weeks, and I think we all probably got a little too hyped up off of his debut. He's 18 of 32 for 221, 1 touchdown, and a pick against easily the worst defense in the league. It's back-to-back plus matchups that he hasn't performed. It's time to stop being cute with Nick Mullins, I think.
Yeah, and his blow-up game was against the Raiders, so nothing really say anything to me.
Yeah, I don't think that you can get cute with him. He's a step above Josh Rosen, but that ain't saying much.
Nope.
Matt Breida, on the other hand, he continues to be fantastic. 14 for 106, just no touchdown in this one. It's the second straight 100-yard game, though. Still under 20 touches, but he did also catch 3 for 34, so he's just kind of a locked and loaded running back, too. Dante Pettis, who I spent Sunday morning hyping up and putting in my lineups, went 4-7 for 77 and a touchdown. He had another strong game in Goodwin's absence. I think the 2 games Goodwin has missed and Pettis has played, he's performed. But unfortunately, those 2 are the same role, essentially. So Goodwin's healthy. Pettis isn't worth anything.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
But he does get the looks when he's down. Kendrick Bourne, on the other hand, just 2 of 3 for 27 yards. He completely disappointed.
Yep. There was basically no volume for anybody but Kittle or Pettis.
Yep. Speaking of Kittle's, 12 targets, 6 receptions, 48 yards. That's his floor. He did also give you 1 rush for 10 yards, but none of that is bad by tight end standards. It's just not what you've expected for Kittle. But, he is still that mid-tier of tight end.
I mean,
he's still He had 12 targets. It happens.
Still fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, 8.8 fantasy points for one of his worst games of the season.
I'll take that.
You're not freaking out about that at all. He's still, like I said, in that middle 4 to 8 range of tight ends week in and week out. As for the Bucs, Jameis was as predicted, really 29 to 38 through 12, 2 touchdowns, no picks, and another 24 on the ground in a plus matchup. So you will take that. It wasn't a situation where the Bucs had to throw a ton either. They were under their season average because they were ahead for the entire game. Peyton Barber did snag himself a touchdown, gives himself another solid week. He was just 18 for 47, though, in a solid matchup, and the schedule gets worse from here on out. So cause for concern as the Panthers, Saints, and Ravens are looming for him. So you're probably done with Peyton Barber for the year.
I mean, hopefully it was just a bye week fill-in and you can just cut him.
Yeah, because he's not going to be good the rest of the year.
I hold on to him because he's a starting running back, but yeah, he's not going to be really playable.
Or if not, cut him, bury him at the darkest corner of your bench.
Yeah. Still an RB1 on a team.
They break glass in case of emergency.
Yes.
Mike Evans was also as expected in this one, with just 8 targets because it wasn't a shootout, but 6 receptions for 116 yards, no touchdowns. It's the 6th 100-yard game of the season, though. He's very quietly having a really good year. Speaking of people that are very quietly having a good year, specifically second half, Adam Humphries continues to do his best Cooper Kupp impression. 6 of 6 for 54 and a touchdown. He's on a hot streak, and this is weird. How do you sit Adam Humphries right now?
The one place I've got him, he's permanently attached to my flex position right now.
He is your...
I may super glue him there.
He's your new Keelan Cole for the playoff stretch.
But better.
But better.
But better. He was putting up Cooper Kupp stat lines the last 3-4 weeks. Different teams and white guy comparisons to white guys are pretty lazy, but that's what it is. Chris Godwin and Deshaun Jackson, by the way, are pretty mad in this one. Jackson had 8 targets, but it amounted to a total of 19 yards and a hand injury. Godwin did have 42 yards in this one without the touchdown. So, unfortunately, the touchdown upside for Godwin's kind of gone away, even though the targets and yardage has been pretty consistent.
Yeah, the red zone usage has dropped like a rock, and I'm not sure why.
Yeah.
And then the Brait one in his return to prominence. 4 targets, 3 receptions, just 26 yards, but he did catch a touchdown. He is Winston's favorite red zone target, so you can't sleep on that week in, week out.
And that's why Godwin's targets of red zone have gone down.
Yep. And by the way, even though the 49ers were held to 9 points, the Bucs defense it's still never an option.
Yeah, just one turnover and I think one sack in this one. It was pretty ugly.
Yep.
All right. Last game before we get to a beer review. Raiders going and playing the Ravens. Ravens win this one 34-17 at home.
But some slight breaking news that we've all guessed. Fournette is going to appeal, and he should learn his fate by Wednesday.
All right, so you will know that in the next 48 hours, folks.
All right, moving on. Raiders, Ravens. Start with the Raiders here as the away team. The game kind of went as I guessed. Cook and Doug Martin were the only real fantasy relevant players in this game. Martin was able to fall into the end zone, and he continues to impress, at least in terms of production or efficiency wise, since the Lynch injury. He had 14 touches for 72 yards and a rushing touchdown. And since taking over for Lynch in Week 8, he's averaging those 14 touches, 76 yards, and 4.8 yards per carry. I think that's over a 5-game stretch. He is a mid RB2 just because of the limits in this offense. You guys agree?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. As for the receiving game, Cook 2 for 32 and a touchdown on 5 targets. Touchdown that shouldn't have counted. He was out at the 1. But he hasn't. Cook hasn't posted a 5-catch game since Week 3. And he's only seen 50 yards or more twice during that span. He's clearly touchdown dependent, but he is 10th amongst tight ends in yards per reception with 13. So he gets used downfield, and that's what gives him a slight decent floor for a boom bust tight end.
Yeah, he's a streamer basically at this point.
Yeah.
You don't want to start him, but you may have to.
And then we'll make one note because he saw 10 targets. Marcel Aitman, who looks like a tight end out there, 3 of 16 on those 10 targets still. That's bad. Whew, it's bad. Going on to the Ravens here, the better passing day for Lamar Jackson. He went 14-25, 178, 1 touchdown. Those 2 picks both were tipped, so they really weren't his fault. He finished with 71 yards on the ground and a touchdown on 11 carries. He's going to continue to hover around the low QB1 range, high QB2 range, just because of his rushing floor. Gets the Falcons, Chiefs, and Tampa Bay up next. All of them have better pass rushes than what the Raiders have, so expect them to see a little less passing, especially efficiency-wise, and a little bit more running to escape that. Running game, all Gus Bus here, 23 carries, 118 yards, no targets. But it was Tymont, not Buck Allen, who got all the third down pass catching spell work, 11 touches for 64 yards. But this is all the Gus Edwards show.
Bye, Buck Allen.
Yeah, he's been gone for a while. But for some
It
reason,
is now Ty Montgomery.
It is now the Tymont-ish show. What do you guys feel about Gus Edwards moving forward?
I like him as long as they continue to run the read option with Lamar Jackson.
Yeah, as long as they're using this formula, I don't think that he's going to be benched. It's a hot hand approach, and he performed for a 2nd week in a row, so it's going to be his job until he loses it. That's what they've done all year.
Yeah, he's mostly a straight line guy. He's not super dynamic, but he's really good at running the read option.
Yep, and really, when you've got Jackson running sweeps to both sides, or rolling out to both sides, then you can run up the middle. It opens it up.
Yeah, what Jackson does for this offense in terms of running really opens things up for them. Moving on the receiver circle, I like to apologize for the Willie Sneak call out. Threw up a 0 spot all across the board. No targets, nothing.
I'm so glad I benched him and didn't listen to you.
Yeah, please. I hope you guys did too. But like Joe Flacco, Jackson really spread the football around. Brown did see 7 targets, team high, but caught 1 for 23 yards. I believe he had his big play called back due to, I think, a holding penalty.
Yep.
He did.
Crabtree was 2nd in targets with 6, caught 3 for 31, and that touchdown, which was a nice play. All 3 tight ends also got involved. Andrews had the big catch, but that's all he had. Hurst led the group and Hurst led the tight end group in targets and catches, but all 3 of them are using. Again, you're never going to use them anyways. And how do we feel about this with this receiving core? We've seen 2 games with Jackson. How do we feel about it?
None of them need to be owned.
None of them need to be owned. I agree.
Yeah, I don't feel great about it at all. I'm still going to hold on to Snead just because I think they try to involve him, but that's only if there's not anything better out there.
And as good as the defense has been for the most part this season, you can probably drop them now. 3 of their next 4 matchups are on the road and against very good offenses.
Yep, they will be going into hibernation for me.
Yeah.
And that's it for that game.
All right.
Do Ravens hibernate? I don't think they hibernate. I think they migrate.
I'm going to force them to hibernate.
I think
all
they
right.
migrate south.
Real quick before we get a beer review, pick one as an upside play for Week 13. Juju Smith-Schuster, Larry Fitzgerald, or Kenny Galladay.
Oh, Jesus.
I forget who.
Galladay's got the Rams.
Juju's got
the
Chargers. And who do the Cardinals have?
Cardinals have the Packers.
Give me Galladay.
Oh,
I don't know how you bench Juju right now, even against the Chargers. The Steelers are at home. As much as I love Galladay, I do not know how you bench Juju right now.
I want the guy who's going to get 14 targets against the Rams secondary.
Shot bet. Do it right now. We haven't had one in a while. Juju versus Galladay. We finally get a fun.
Are you in on this or no?
No, I'm gonna stay out of this one. But
Well, you're not going to give your opinion? I mean,
I will give my opinion, but I'm still saying shot bet.
I'll take it, but you take the guy that gets 14 targets. I'll take the guy that got 17 this past week.
I'm going. I'm going to lean Galladay for the fact that no one else there is going to steal targets from him.
I'm saying 600-yard games, 4 touchdowns,
No,
2 straight games.
I love them both. That's why I said I lean Galladay because
6 double-digit target games. I'm taking Juju.
I love them both. But let's do it.
Beer review.
You can put the drop on me. I'm just going to keep talking about Juju until somebody cucks me. You got to take this one away from me.
I have no problem with that. I love Juju. That's why I'm not in this shot bet because I would like them both.
All right. What did you guys think about Oh So Pretty by 18th Street?
I think Dan is taking a cop out because I don't think Nick has exactly any issues with Juju, and I don't have any issues with Galladay either. So I think
And I've muted Hopper. Dan, what did you think of Oh So Pretty?
Yeah, it's not for me. It's I guess decent for what it wants to do. It's got a crisp, refreshing taste to it. The skunkiness more on the nose and back, and take out a little bit for me. I'm not a big fan of saison, so that's more or less why.
Yeah, it's got a lot of that kind of banana type flavor that a lot of saisons have. Kind of a slow, spicy hop feel through the whole thing, but it's pretty mild. But just like it's got kind of just that slight bitter burn to it whole way through, and then it's just real malty. But I like it. I could easily drink 2 or 3
you like
of these.
almost everything. I don't think you've found a beer that you don't like.
The toasted lager was atrocious.
That's true.
And Hopper, you are unmuted, by the way.
it is a little skunky, but for a saison, I tend to like them. I know that they're more of a niche beer to where there's no I kind of like this with saisons or anything farmhousey. I love it or I hate it, but it is a little bit skunky on the back end. But I do thought you got some of that banana kind of spice up front that I tend to like in saisons. It's a very, very solid take. And still, the toasted lager is the only thing I've had that I don't like either.
Yep.
Even when you guys have fed me lime.
Well, I mean, it does what it does well, and it's the same thing for you when you drink lime beer. It's you appreciate what they did. You just don't drink those kind of beers.
Yeah, we have so much we know what the style's supposed to taste like, but toasted lager is the only one that didn't nail it.
Oh, God.
All right. Let's hit our second half games here, or our afternoon games, I should say. Dolphins going and playing Indy was up first. Colts win 27-24 on a last-second Vinatieri field goal. Dolphins, where Tannehill easily outperformed my expectations, 204 yards, 2 touchdowns on 25 attempts with no interceptions. He could possibly get some streaming consideration down the stretch. Pretty easy matchup in terms of possibly throwing options against the Patriots and the Jaguars, who have kind of been underperforming down the stretch here. Gore saw the most touches, but Drake was the one making all the big plays in the running game. 96 total yards and a touchdown, 13 for him. Gore was 77 on 15 total touches. So they seemed like they finally figured out that Drake could be really effective, and then he hurt his shoulder. So we haven't gotten a prognosis on how he's going to look for Week 13. And then as a note, Gore still has not scored a touchdown yet this season.
But he'll find a way to be an RB2.
He'll find a way. By hook or by crook.
Through all of his will, he'll be an RB2.
All right, and then the receivers did absolutely nothing in this game. Drake's touchdown was receiving, by the way. There was a 74-yard score for Laurente Carew, who on his one catch.
Yep.
And then the next best receiver was Durham Smythe, caught both targets for 27 yards.
Oof.
Amendola was 1 for 18.
Who's hurt?
Devontae Parker 3 for 10.
He's just bad.
Defense was okay. 3 turnovers caused and a sack. End of season schedule. Bills and Patriots at home, at the Vikings, and Jaguars at home in Week 16.
Yeah, with how bad the receivers are, I don't think I'm going to ever be streaming Tannehill.
All right, on to the Colts side, though, where now we're at up to 8 straight games for Luck with 3+ touchdown passes and 343 yards on this one on 37 attempts. He had some rushing, and he had a reception in this game, too, just to kind of give
He got
you...
smoked in that reception.
He did.
He got up like a man.
He always gets up. Even when he's, like, broken his shoulder, he's like, I'm good. And then we find out.
That was the second worst blow up I saw all week, and the other one was in this game, too. It was the one Marlon Mack got concussed on. Or
Yeah.
not Mack, sorry. It was the one Drake got hurt on when Marcus Hunt blew through the middle of the line.
Yep. Mack was doing okay before being sidelined with his concussion, 5.7 yards per carry, 96 total yards, and 17 touches. I was hoping for a touchdown in this one for him to kind of really put a bow on his day, but he couldn't quite get it done. But still gave you a solid running back 2 day.
Yeah.
You'll take it. Hines was 11 of the 14 remaining touches, though, so if Mack is going to miss Week 13, or it even looks like it's possible, Hines is the one I'm trying to pick up.
It's the same thing it was to begin this season with Mack was so banged up.
Yep. Yeah, Wilkins had 3 touches, all receptions.
Which is weird.
T.Y. Hilton led the team in targets, receptions, and yards. 10 targets, 125 yards on 7 catches in this particular game. At this point, I'm just going to start him and ride him the rest of the way.
Especially with Doyle gone and with the matchups they have coming up against really tough run defenses, definitely.
Yep. Ebron was second in targets with 7. He caught 5 for 45 yards and 2 touchdowns. And now with Doyle done for the year, his value jumps through the roof. I think he's probably your tight end 4, just in a generic ranking rest of season.
You can argue you can put him on par with Kittle. The only thing that's going to keep him away is if Wally Cox and Swoop take stuff away from him.
Swoop still got a knee injury.
Yeah. I don't know if
Allie Cox is hurt also. I think this is firmly Ebron's.
Yeah. Well, no, it's all his. This is just, between Kittle and Ebron.
Yep.
And where you have him ranked.
I was hoping for a little more of the defense. 1 turnover, 1 sack, but they didn't completely kill you. Rest of season schedule at the Jaguars next week, where they will be a potential start. At the Texans, Cowboys, and the Giants in Week 16.
I am so high on the Colts defense against the Jaguars. I want them to pick Cody Kessler off 9 times.
9 times.
Yeah. I like him in 13 and 16, even against the Giants.
All right. Up next is Cardinals at the Chargers. This one shouldn't take very long, especially on the Cardinals side. Chargers went 45-10, and they were down 10-0, so it's 45 straight points for the win.
Yeah, this won't take long. Rosen was very bad. Threw just 19 times, completed 12 for 105, 1 touchdown, 1 pick. He's not even in streamer talks at this point.
Nope.
David Johnson had 19 touches in this one, just 79 total yards, no touchdowns. The offense couldn't get anything going. He continues to be disappointing. He's not even sniffing running back 1 numbers. I asked if he was still a weekly start. I think he is, but it's probably as a running back too.
Yeah, and just he has the ability to score 2 touchdowns any week,
Yeah.
more than a lot of other backs do.
And with some of the running backs that came out of nowhere, you can
Right.
you may have some flex, some flex conversations with them.
Yeah. The only other thing worth mentioning here is Larry Fitzgerald. Just 2 targets, but he did score a touchdown. So it's 3 straight startable weeks for Fitzgerald. Just 30 yards receiving though. RSJ 1 reception, 5 yards. If you're into that sort of thing.
I hope you're not, unless you're in a lowest score league while still scoring points.
I want to do a golf league so bad.
Where they can't score a 0, but it's as low as possible.
Yep.
Yeah, you have to put out a lineup, but it's as low as possible. I tried to do that with, boosting points for interceptions and things like that in the league. Maybe next year I'll try to see if I can get some more traction on a golf league.
I'm sure MFL will have something you can do with that.
Well, no, the goal should be is you want to do a golf league, but if they score a 0, it's a massive penalty for you.
so it's like hearts.
Yes. No, that's exactly what I want it to be. If it's a 0, it's bad, so they got to get something.
Yep. So you want 1 catch for 1 yard.
Yep.
No, 1 carry for 1 yard.
Yeah. And negative's fine too, because it means they did something, but 0s are out.
Yeah, production.
As for the Chargers, Phillip Rivers went off more so than expected. 28 to 29. He did set the record for consecutive completions and completion percentage in a game. 3 touchdowns in this one. So
well, no, his start he completed 25 in a row to tie the record with Tannehill.
No, I think he said it. It said that he said it.
No, he set
26.
he set the completion record, the percentage record, but not the consecutive completions.
Somebody
He tied it. He tied it with Tannehill.
I saw it on TV that it said that it was all his.
I was watching the game.
Yeah.
Well, whatever.
Somebody vet it. Well, otherwise I will next game. Melvin Gordon played. He was 10 of 6 doing for 2 touchdowns and 1 sprained MCL. So he had a good game before he got hurt. So if you started him, hopefully you enjoyed it because he's going to miss the next couple weeks. Probably 2 if I had to guess. Austin Eckler, though, he was outrushed by Justin Jackson, but he did have 10 receptions on 11 targets, 103 scrimmage yards for him. Meanwhile, Justin Jackson, and this wasn't just garbage time, had 7 carries for an impressive 57 yards. So both of these guys, I think, are viable in the absence. It was Newsome in garbage time. Shout out Dan for even mentioning that name.
Yeah.
4 carries, but it was the garbagiest of garbage time. So it's mostly going to be Justin Jackson, Austin Eckler.
Yep.
And then at the receiving core, Keenan Allen, 7 of 7 for 72 and a touchdown. So solid game for him. He was efficient. Mike Williams, 4 for 4, 25 yards, but he had 2 touchdowns. They were targeting him in the red zone, just letting him go up and get it. No one else did anything of note.
All right. And we were both right. He tied Tannehill for the most consecutive completions. He broke the record for the most consecutive completions to start a game.
Gotcha. That's what it was, because Tannehill's was over 2 games.
Yep.
Yeah. So in theory, we're both yes.
Yep. We both said the correct thing, but we're coming from different directions.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. On next is Steelers versus the Broncos. Broncos pick off Roethlisberger in the end zone to seal the victory on this one, win 24-17.
Start with the Steelers. Ugly but an effective fantasy day for Big Ben. 41-56. Yes, 56. 462 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, and 18 rushing yards on the ground. Any quarterback should be relevant fantasy-wise when you throw the ball over 50 times. Split and road and home games coming up for Big Ben. Both road games are good to decent matchups. So those are the Raiders and Saints in weeks 14 and 16. Then he gets the Chargers and Pats at home next weekend in week 15. Ben should be a mid to high QB1 almost every week. The Saints matchup does scare me, though, as the Saints defense has really stepped it up against 2 good offenses in Philadelphia and Atlanta the last 2 games out. As for the running game here, though, it really hasn't gotten going, but they really haven't given Connor much to do with. The passing day, the passing work in this game at least saves his game as opposed to last week. Connor had 17 touches for 95 yards. He did lose a fumble, so it could have been better, but it could have been a lot worse. A better day should be ahead. 3 of his 4 matchups are all pretty good. Again, the Saints one does concern me. As for the receivers, Juju went off. He was a PPR monster before the 97-yard touchdown catch and run, but that really helped padded his stats. 13 of 189 and a touchdown on 17 targets. Brown had a floor day, 9 for 76 on 13 targets. Just missed that touchdown for his really normal day. Switzer saw 8 targets and really looks to be the 3 in this offense, but again, when you have 56 attempts, you expect a wide receiver 3 to put up those type of numbers. I believe he finished 6 for 70-something, if I remember correctly. And I think if the passing offense wants to be more uptick, Switzer could have some value in there because he gets used a lot in many different ways, especially in kick return and punt return leagues because he is their punt returner. Tight ends are still a mess. McDonald saw the most targets again with 5 amongst this group. He did leave for a little bit, and he also did drop a touchdown as well. The defense just disappointed completely. No turnovers, just 2 sacks, 24 points allowed. And the only reason you're going to play him again this season is against the Raiders. As for the Broncos, Keenum didn't kill you. 197 yards passing, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. This is his 3rd straight game without an interception. He's only taken 4 sacks during that 3-game stretch. Decent schedule coming up for him too. At Cincinnati, at San Francisco, home against Cleveland, and at Oakland. He's a good 2 QB super flex option, and he's even a desperate streaming option in 1 QB leagues.
Desperate, though.
But good matchups coming for the offense is starting to click, and he's not killing you. He's become floor more than he's become, that dagger to your heart.
Yeah. Well, but he has yet to pop even once this season.
Well, either way, like I said, desperate streaming option.
That all you got?
Well, no, that's just a quarterback.
Oh, sorry.
Philip Lindsay doesn't care about next sit of the week. 14 for 110 and a touchdown. Royce Freeman, on the other hand, was completely scared of it. 6 for 17 yards. Lindsay is an easy RB2 moving forward with favorable matchups coming up. Royce even sees flex value given those same matchups. Sanders was amazing in his worst matchup left. 7 for 86 and a touchdown on 12 targets. Sutton struggled though. 1 catch on 4 targets for 14 yards. And when Jeff Heiberman out for the season, Matt Lucas came in, 3 for 34 and a touchdown on 4 targets. Sutton should have himself some better days with the decent matchups coming up.
It's possible we don't see the breakout this year, though, that we were hoping for.
Well, he was also very raw talent. This is something that we talked about. He's very much has the ability to be a true number 1 receiver, but this offense as a whole, and we don't know if Keenum's the QB of the future for him.
Yeah, and I didn't necessarily expect the breakout to be this year anyway for him. I mean, yes, Thomas getting traded helps, but I was always thinking year 2, year 3 for Sutton.
Yeah.
More so.
And it might be even a little bit longer if they move on from Keenum after this season. The
Just
defense...
I think they keep Keenum until that there's a viable option in the draft, and that isn't this year's quarterbacks.
No, not even close.
Not from what I've heard, no.
And then if you played the DSC like I did in DFS, you got kind of rewarded because they didn't kill you. 4 turnovers, a couple sacks to help level off the 527 total yards they allowed, and with 17 points. Again, with good matchups coming up, the Denver's defense should be one of your high priority pickups if they're available, especially if you're a playoff team looking to solidify your starting roster.
I have a league where I've got a Bears-Broncos stack.
I have that in a best ball stack. Not doing well in that league, but either way.
I've got a Chargers Bears stack.
Which has been... Bears anything's been pretty good. But other than that, that's all I got for that game.
All right. Last game of the week is Packers coming into Minnesota to play the Vikings. Vikings won 24-17. Most of the scoring was early in this game. For the Packers, Rodgers was quiet, 17 of 28 for 198 yards and a single touchdown. He's been quiet for a few weeks in a row now, and he's not even a must start anymore.
This was a pretty difficult matchup. Cardinals just let Rivers set records, so maybe his bounce back game is next week.
I think he's fine next week. I did some deep diving on Rodgers though, because I tweeted out that he just looked bad. He looked off. He was missing people by a lot. And it's his second worst completion percentage of his career, the worst in like 8 years. And he's throwing the ball downfield more. It's like they're trying to force the ball deep with this offense, and it's not paying off. Everything is a bomb. And I don't know if that's because receivers can't separate or what, but everything's a bomb. Interception rate's good. Touchdown rate, lowest in the last several years also.
Yeah, well, and part of the issue, too, is a lot of the matchups they have coming up soon are also great running matchups. So it may be the other Aaron who's the better start than Rodgers, and I'm talking about Aaron Jones.
Yes.
Well, I think Aaron Jones is probably the better start rest of the season.
I agree.
He had 19 touches in this one, 93 yards and a touchdown, and this is was his second toughest matchup left on his schedule. The only one left is he has to go into Soldier Field in Week 15. But as long as he can get somebody to plug in that week, or maybe even you start him as an RB3 type with some upside, Aaron Jones' rest of the season schedule, he gets the Cardinals, the Falcons, and at the Jets in Week 16.
Yeah, I kind of regret not trading for him. Oh, well.
And he's the only running back really getting work. Williams had like 3 touches in this game.
Yeah.
Adams was the only receiver who did anything as per usual. Caught 5 of 8 targets for 69 yards, and his touchdown was awesome.
It was that was Rodgers' best throw of the game.
Yeah, he threw it before
It wasn't more so
Adams
with
got
Adams.
even his head turnaround.
Like, there's no way you cover that pass. There's no way.
Yeah, it was perfectly to the pylon, and there was no way to defend it unless you knew what the play was.
And even then.
MVS, though, single target. ESB was actually running as the wide receiver, too, before he got hurt in this one. Over him, he had 53 total yards. Something nice to keep an eye on for Dynasty Leagues as he may be developing for next year.
We liked him more as a talent more than MVS, that's for sure.
Graham was quiet, caught 2 passes late, and with them basically out of playoff contention, I'm not going to be shocked if they maybe put Graham on the shelf and let his thumb heal.
Yeah, and this may also play into what Rodgers could be the rest of the season, where they go more balanced to protect him, because this is a lost season for them effectively.
Rodgers still thinks they're going to make the playoffs.
Well, they got a 3% chance.
Yeah,
Good luck.
It ain't over, but they're tied with the Browns right
Which
now in
means
record.
they'll probably fucking do it.
So you're saying there's a chance?
They have to win out, and they got the Bears game left. That's going to be a tough one. Defense had just 2 sacks, no turnovers, so they have a couple plus matchups, but there's just not a lot of juice here on this team. And the season schedule, as I mentioned, Cardinals, Falcons, at the Bears, at the Jets. Something happened?
Score update. Titans are winning 10-0, and Jonnu Smith had a 50-plus yard touchdown reception.
Holy balls,
So
Johnny.
yes.
Oh, that actually might do something in a few leagues I'm in. Okay, good to know. On to the Vikings, though, where Cousins just had his way with the Packers secondary. 342 yards, 3 touchdowns on 38 attempts. Lines himself up with a duel with Brady next week.
Have fun.
Cousins will be ranked higher than Brady for me.
As you should.
It was 61 for Johnny.
61. I know it's a high mark.
Jeez. Running game continues to be bad, though. Cook and Murray combining for 62 yards on 21 attempts in this matchup. A lot of those late in the game when they were trying to salt it away. But Cook gave you 3 catches for 47 yards and a touchdown. Gabe brought his total up to 76 total yards to at least give you a decent day.
Yeah, the split with Murray is a little concerning, but I think they were mostly, after they got a lead, they were mostly just trying to ice it.
Yeah, Murray was more in, and he got at
Cook got
least
it
7 or
on
8 of his touches in garbage time.
Yeah.
Or not garbage time, ice time. Diggs and Thielen did their thing. Both caught 8 balls on 9+ targets with a touchdown. Diggs had 89 total yards. Thielen had 125 for some excellent days. They just keep doing what they're going to do against plus matchups here. Only real shocker I thought was Rudolph getting 7 targets. He caught all of them in 63 total yards for his first decent day in a while at 9.5 fantasy points, or 9.8 and half-point PPR. Vikings gave you his 4 sacks and a turnover against the Packers, held him to 17 points for a decent day. They continue to be a solid start in plus matchups. Probably not liking them in the next 2 weeks against Patriots and Seahawks, but Dolphins and Lions in weeks 15 and 16, you'll probably start them. That's all I got. Let's talk some injuries. Up first is Andy Dalton. Was first originally listed as day-to-day with a thumb sprain, but then they decided to IR him. He is done for the season. What does this do to the weapons in Cincy?
I think you got to see a little bit of what Driscoll could be with Tyler Boyd, so we got to wait and see with him. We got to really wait and see with AJ Green if he comes back. They may throw him on IR because the season's lost. And I think Mixon could see a lot of check down work to kind of keep Driscoll from throwing it down deep as well. So Mixon and Boyd, you can say it maybe a slight bump because they don't have a decent quarterback with them. But a lot of it's to wait and see.
Anything to add, Hopper?
No.
All right. Running backs, Melvin Gordon, grade 2 MCL sprain, likely out for at least a week or 2, could be longer than that. How are we viewing the split between Jackson and Eckler?
I think Eckler probably gets the majority of it, but I do think Jackson is probably going to get about 10 to 12 touches. If this is any peek into what happened this week is any peek into how that's going to break down. Justin Jackson looked very good as a runner, and they used him as such, whereas Eckler was more the passing game.
All right, Marlon Mack has a concussion, may be back this week or not. Keep an eye on Hines as a possible pickup. We'll get to that in a moment if he does miss. And then Kenyon Drake with a shoulder. We also have no timetable on that one either.
Wait and see.
Deshaun Jackson is getting a second opinion on his hand injury, which that's usually code for he's about to be placed on injured reserve.
Yeah, as you should.
Yeah.
So that would be a bump to Godwin if that did happen. So keep an eye on that. For tight ends, Evan Ingram hurt his hamstring in pregame warmups. They think he's going to be ready for Week 13, but he may miss. Jack Doyle with a kidney injury was originally listed as undisclosed. He is done for the season, was placed on IR today.
Yeah, not good, but they at least have Ebron, which is the obvious answer there, but he's owned, so not a whole lot to take away.
And then Jeff Hireman, ribs and lung. He punctured a lung after cracked some ribs. Done for the season as well.
Which kind of sucks because he was really starting to come on and kind of take hold of this. So
Plus, I really like saying Hireman in all the weekly previews.
Hireman. So, I mean, Keenum uses the tight end, but I don't know if this is more of a Sutton benefit. They don't really throw to the running backs a whole lot. So,
yeah. I mean,
Matt Lacousse was the guy.
Yeah, Matt
I'm
Lacousse, I guess.
I may be wrong with his
Yeah.
pronunciation. He was the guy that took over, had the touchdown also.
All right. Up next is some waiver ads. We're just going to run through this real quick. Lamar Jackson looks like he might be the starter for the rest of the season. Is still less than 50% owned.
There is reports that they could be using Flacco when he returns, though, too. So really keep an eye out on that if you're going to try to bank on Jackson.
And then a couple deep league possible adds, Josh Allen and Ryan Tannehill.
Yeah, if you are desperate, which is after the Bortles injury, benching, I kind of am.
All right, we got a lot of running backs to possibly kick the tires on this week. Austin Eckler and Justin Jackson due to Gordon's MCL injury. Eckler is owned in, I believe, 70% of leagues, but the 30% he's not, go get him. And Justin Jackson, I think, if in deeper leagues, is an add too.
Yep.
Yeah, he's barely owned. Jackson is.
Naheem Hines and Jordan Wilkins with max concussion. Hines preferred over Wilkins if you're grabbing one.
Yep.
Carlos Hyde and TJ Yeldon, which we argued about earlier. It was if Fournette gets suspended, which he did. It is under appeal, so keep an eye on that. But if he misses, both could be viable. I personally prefer Yeldon. Hopper's on Team Hyde.
I lean Yeldon.
Tried to wield Hyde into existence.
You're trying to...
It could. I got to play Hyde in a few
I got a
leagues.
Gordon injury where I need Hyde, damn it.
So you're trying to the secret Carlos Hyde.
Yeah.
Rex Burkhead was activated off IR, and he will have a role. I don't know how big of a one, but behind Michelle and White, but he will be involved.
It's a roll.
That's a roll.
And then Carry-On might be out a few more games, so Theo Riddick and LeGarrette Blount are both addable.
I don't want to add Blunt to anything.
I don't either, but I might.
Yeah.
For wide receiver, I got a couple guys who are not over 50% somehow. Josh Reynolds.
He needs to be.
And Kiki Kuti.
He also needs to be.
Also not over 50%. Adam Humphries.
He's your wide receiver like 6 right now, and since last
For
like 4 or 5 games.
Yeah, he's been fantastic, and I don't know how you don't own him right now.
And then for Adam Humphries, light Bruce Ellington with Marvin Jones headed IR.
Yeah, not nearly the upside, but if it's a PPR league, sure.
David Moore, if Baldwin continues to stay dinged up with the groin injury, continues to miss practice, I don't mind him as a possible boom-bust play.
Yep.
Home run swing.
Mike Williams popped off for 2 touchdowns. I'm not chasing it, but if you're looking through this list, I'm like, I don't have anybody else above him, and he was dropped. Possible pickup for you.
I don't trust the volume, but yeah.
Similar note, Curtis Samuel scored in 3 straight on small volume. Funchess is dinged up, so he may be a similar type play.
I think they keep using him as a gadget. The question is how long until people start to expect it.
And then Dante Pettis on a similar note where if Garcon and Goodwin remain out, could be a viable start for you.
A good one specifically.
Only 10% owned.
Chris Herndon, under 10% owned right now.
What the fuck are you guys doing out there?
How the hell is Herndon under 10% owned?
I don't know. Fantasy Pros has him at 9% right now.
Wow.
And I got a bunch of defenses to look at this week. It is a good defense week. Chiefs at the Raiders, Seahawks at home against the 49ers, Packers at home against the Cardinals, Broncos at the Bengals against Jeff Driscoll, Colts at the Jaguars with Cody Kessler, Bills at the Dolphins, Eagles versus the Redskins, and Titans versus the Jets. Just a ton of waiver wire available defenses this week. Just take your pick. If I'm picking some favorites, Titans, Colts, Seahawks probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Couple guys you can look and say goodbye to. This drop I can't skip.
Weekly cuts.
Back to Herndon, by the way. I just want to, before we do that, just real quick. He's a tight end 11 since week 5. Ahead of guys like Vance McDonald, Jimmy Graham, Jared Cook, Ben Watson, Nick Vannett, CJ Uzama.
Yep. He's been very underappreciated considering I think it's because he's a Jet.
Probably.
Yeah, he's just behind Njoku.
Andy Dalton, done for the year. Very cuttable. Blake Bortles could also be added to this list if you owned him, but I think he was significantly less owned than Andy Dalton was. Alex Collins, I think, is droppable in shallower leagues with Jackson likely keeping the starting job.
I think you can, even if he's healthy.
And then in shallower leagues where you're not holding handcuffs, Royce Freeman, I think, is cuttable.
He could be.
Yeah.
For wide receiver, you got Marvin Jones done for the year with the knee injury.
Yep.
MVS at this point has taken a bad turn, and I think he is very droppable.
I agree.
Cortland Sutton, if you're looking for some space, hasn't taken the step we'd hope for. You may be able to find a better streamable option. All the receivers on the Ravens. So John Brown, Michael Crabtree, and Willie Snead. I saw John Brown and thought Cardinals. What year is it? Jackson's just not supporting anybody consistently as a passer right now.
Yep.
And then Danny Amendola, who is mostly a bye week fill-in, he's not needed anymore. You should have enough of your players back at this point, or better waiver wire options.
Yeah.
At tight end, we got both Jack Doyle and Jeff Hireman done for the year, so kick them to the curb. The only defense I saw that was probably owned that you maybe want to churn off here just because they have a couple tough matchups down the stretch here is the Chargers. They catch the Steelers and the Chiefs, I believe, over the next 3 weeks.
Yep.
And then Phil Dawson's done for the year.
Rip.
Rest of week preview Wednesday. We're going to, for the next 4 weeks, I believe, we're going to do an extended start sit segment on our Wednesday episodes. We're going to give you an extra sit and 2 extra starts. As opposed to our normal 4-1 format, it'll be a 6-2. So keep a lookout for that. Get you guys some names to get in your lineups here for the last 4 weeks. Friday, of course, is our weekly preview. Sunday, we'll be back 10:30 in the morning to give you all of your questions answered and get you guys all set before noon kickoffs on the Sunday games. Apologies for the long episode. We had a lot of banter in this one. We were enjoying our 200th episode. I'm at Nick Sparts from St. Louis. We got Christopher Hopper.
At Hot BFF, 2-piece.
To my right, Dan Thury.
At BFF. At 3 BFF 2S.
We are
episodes. You still doesn't know his Twitter handle.
Nope.
We are BFF. You
We
can find
are
us at
BFF.
Beerfield Fantasy Beerfield FF on Twitter, Instagram, and Untapped. Beerfield Fantasy Football for YouTube. Thank you so much for listening, guys. Hope you enjoyed the extended episode, and we will catch you guys next time on Beerfield Fantasy Football.
See ya.
Bye.
Later. And the outro fell off my board. Well, with that, we're just going to reverse the intro.